T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world, episode 517. Welcome back, Jason from Jason Exotic Reptiles. Round 2 coming at you. What's good, everyone? How's everyone week going out there? You guys ready for tonight or what? I'm so stoked for tonight, man. But listen, if this is your first time tapping in, I'm your boy MJ. If you're keeping reptiles, you're into wanting to learn more about the market, the breeding side, or just overall the well-being of being in the reptile world, this is the podcast to be hitting that subscribe button to. Okay, first and foremost, 7 days a week you could catch a podcast being dropped out of the Trap Talk Reptile Network, and you can also listen to all episodes on all major audio platforms: Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to Trap Talk Reptile Network. Thank you so much. Means a lot. Means everything. All motivation, inspiration for sure. Shout out to everyone in the early birds in the chats right now. If you're in the live chats tonight and you think tonight's episode's worthy of any super chat, drop a super chat. Especially if you have a topic or a question, do not be shy with the super chat and I'll get it on the big screen. And of course, if you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to get more behind the scenes, if you just want to meet amazing reptile keepers with longevity, with their name involved with the reptiles, then come join the Trap Talk Patreon family. You can do that by clicking the very first link in the description below. Once you join the Trap Talk Patreon family, you get a link to the Discord that will tap you in with over 200 reptile keepers, an amazing group chat cracking off on Instagram. Shout out to all my global trappers. You guys are beautiful, man. And I gotta say, my vlogs are gonna be coming back. All right, I promise. My vlogs are coming back for sure. So we'll talk more about that tonight. Again, shout out to all the early birds. I just want to say, whoever's here tonight, thank you so much. Tonight's a special episode for sure. Okay, because if anyone's watched my first episode I had with Jason, you guys heard how long I've been following Jason, and how much a lot of his advice that he still gives today has helped me like be in this game for the long run, right? So very exciting to recap a lot of things with Jason tonight. All right, so being here really means a lot. Shout out to my homegirl Krista, who has her actually own show every Sunday here on Trap Talk. Krista from Neurofy Exotics, she's a real one. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day as well. Wabi Sabi Exotics, that's a sick ass name. I like that name. It's the first time I've seen you in the chats. Thank you so much for being here. City Limit Exotics, and Kenneth Jordan, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. See you at Daytona soon, my guy. Tough Art Pythons in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Eric in the building. PJ Creations. How the new productions or new arrivals going for you, my man. Let me know. Trap Talk Patreon member all day. My boy Shane, my brother. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Appreciate you so much, dog. Big E Top G Villarino every Monday night. He does not miss. All right. The Darth Vader of the ball python game. Do not sleep on Villarino Reptiles and the V Unit family. Appreciate everything that this man does for not only me, but for the entire community. He's a real one. Appreciate Emilio. Matt B in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. The homie Cody from Morph Kings, who's killing it this year. Trap Talk Patreon member. Go give him a follow right now. Musical Pythons in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. The homegirl Jen, who will be here on Monday night's New Breed on the Block this next coming Monday night. So Cigar City Exotics, we're going to end it in style with the homegirl Jen, because it's going to be cracking tonight, man. And we got to, of course, mention that if you are in the reptile game, you should be supporting USARK. Okay, if you don't know what USARK is, don't be ashamed. Just click the very second link in the description below. Read what USARK's all about, what they're here for. And if you're in Florida, please check out USARK Florida. Support both, because both these organizations are here to help us keep our animal rights, which is, I mean, think about it. Losing your animals, what? Yeah, it's a possibility. So protect yourselves. All right, you'll feel better, peace of mind, and these numbers need to go up. So appreciate Phil Goss, Vanessa, Jeremy, Tony, all the USARK associates and people who support USARK. Thank you so much. Means a lot. Very blessed for tonight's sponsors, of course. All right, I'm very, very supported, and I appreciate all that to my sponsors who keep these episodes going. All right, so first and foremost, I do want to say tonight's episode is brought to you by Mark Bailey over at Mark Bailey Reptiles. Head over to Morph Market. Be ready for some amazing ball python heat. triple recessive, double recessive quality coming from Mark Bailey Reptiles. All right. So again, that's Mark Bailey Reptiles on Morph Market. Give him a follow. Also, tonight's episode is brought to you by Focus Cube Habitats, #1 PVC enclosures in the game. Flex in Texas all day, every day. Shout out to Steven and Ashley. Over 30 different designs from Focus Cube Habitats. All reptiles could go in a Focus Cube habitat. Thank you so much. Everything you see behind me, all Focus Cube, by the way, 3x2x2s. All right, so I appreciate all the love and whatnot that you guys show Focus, because that's family. All right, so thank you so much, Focus. Appreciate your support for all the years. And also tonight's episode is brought to you by Clutch, #1 ball python organization app in the game for sure. Don't be messy, look sharp, because I gotta tell you, competition's everything in the game right now, which is good. All right, we're trying to weed out the lazy people. All right, you should want to fucking sharpen up. That's what it's about. All right, evolving, looking better. All right, especially when everyone wants to make money in this. Well, guess what? That's called a business. So organize yourself with Clutch. Again, go to Clutch on Instagram. Go to their Clutch's website. Try them out. I'm telling you right now, you look good when you're showing off what you have going on in Clutch. And appreciate all the Clutch members out there showing the Clutch team support. Shout out to Justin Kabelka, Summer, the homie Sebastian, the entire Clutch team. You guys are doing great things. All right. Last but not least, shout out to the COCO dude. That's right. The chipper, #1 COCO substrate in the game. If you go to coco2.com, your entire order could be 24% off by typing in TrapFam24 in the promo code section. All right. Thank you, Chris. Everything is 100% on COCO, by the way. And I think that's going to be my next vlog, is no more paper substrate. I cannot believe I ditched the paper substrate. God damn, am I fearing for mites now? No, I'm just kidding. Not really, though. I mean, we'll talk to Jason about that, too. The whole reason why I've been papered throughout the entire time keeping reptiles is because how I dealt with mites, at one time in my career. That was obviously getting imports, and I was pretty wild back then, and it's been about 3 years since I've seen a mite, but still, like, anyway, either way, I got like the COCO substrate. It's amazing. It's less work, and it smells great in my room. And yes, shout out to the COCO dude. Appreciate it. All my sponsors, by the way, you can find links to their pages and everything in the description below. And thank you to all the sponsors. You guys are all beautiful in the live chats, but it is that time, guys. I got to say, I'm very excited to bring Jason back on. All right. Recap a lot of things. And if you go over to this man's, let's just do that right now, actually. Okay. Do me a favor. Okay. Go over to his YouTube page, because like I said, this is where it all started for me. I got to say, this man was putting out content that he's still putting out today. Like, he even put a mite video out, which taught me how to take care of all my mites years ago. Okay. But this is information that I encourage you watch, like there's a lot of stuff that has blossomed throughout the years where, no disrespect, but a lot of the people talking about what they're putting out, they don't have the experience. It's almost copycatted, and that's fine. That's what it's all about nowadays, but not when keeping animals, right? If you're keeping reptiles, don't you want to get advice from someone who's been doing it and has quite the resume with reptiles? That's just the way I look at things. So first and foremost, go subscribe to Jason's YouTube channel, Jason's Exotic Reptiles. He's been doing it for a minute. All right. And I'm excited to bring him on. So I know everyone's in the chat right now. You guys are beautiful, but it is that time. All right. And what you're thinking about time, I'll tell you what time. It is that time to do what you got to do to get your mind right. Do what you got to do to stay hydrated for episode 517. Jason Exotic Reptiles, round 2. Coming at you right now. Let's go. Choo!
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, God love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. to pop. When I come up with the club to spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the club to spot, get the club to pop. When I come up.
Episode 517. We're live. Welcome back, Jason. What's up, my man?
What's up, man? How we doing?
I'm doing. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm a little tired. It's late on my end. I wake up early, but that's all right. We're here. I was excited to do this, and I appreciate you having me back on for round two.
You're not crashing already, are you, bro? Come on.
No, not yet. I got a beer. I just drank one, so we're in good shape.
Dude, man, I got Jason. I'm so happy for a lot of reasons. You know, here you are back at Trap Talk, which that means you're still relevant. And you're still passionately into the reptiles, which takes me back to 2017, I think. Maybe before then. I want to say right before I got my first boa constrictor is when I started really geeking out of your videos. It was the first time I would really see big. I saw rack systems, but not big tubs. Like I remember you had rack system, old school freedom breeder racks with massive tubs, right? And so just completely blown away. Like that's kind of almost like coming across your YouTube channel was like how some people say they get into the ball python game because of a morph or like a pied. Like you like showed me stuff where I couldn't believe that was actually in people's homes, you know what I mean? Or where they lived. So I'm just saying, I'm very excited to have you here, man. Like you take it back from me from day one. So thank you.
No, I appreciate that, man. I remember the conversations we had, and it's like I think I said on the last call we were on, or the last podcast, is that I love how you kind of took what we had and you molded it and you grew it, and it's kind of right on point with what you need to do in today's market. I know we're going to get to that, so I don't want to jump ahead, but it's right on point. How do you set yourself aside from everybody else? And I mean, I still have some old racks, so people, everybody wants the nice new equipment, and I have nice new equipment too, but that's all been built from things that I've generated from the reptiles themselves. Very little has been personal money invested into the reptiles. It's all self-funded through its own business, and I think that's something I've really taken a liking to lately, is talking more about the business side of the reptiles. And some of the YouTube videos show that. We did appreciate the kind words on the YouTube. We're totally revamping the whole channel, so we now have a cinematographer, Tom Kelly, who's he was just texting me before this. We got a really cool video coming out tomorrow, more of an expo vlog style. And I think I'm trying to just step it up. So it was getting a little overwhelming. I work a full-time job in addition to having hundreds of reptiles, and I have other kind of side things I have. So I'm super busy. The videos were taking somewhat of a slow decline, and I said that I want to keep producing this content. So brought Tom on. He was part of my Patreon, and he's now kind of the full-time guy who's filming, editing, doing, I mean, everything. It looks wild when we're filming. He's got some crazy stuff.
And this is why oh man, I would say one of the things about me with YouTube, I never had any high expectations with numbers from the get-go, especially like when it came to doing a podcast, because I know how small the reptile world is. It's not that big, right? And like I'm a, either you like me or you don't like, right? If you're here for what I have to speak, that's how I do my thing, right? So, and I'm also doing things trying to differently how to branch out and get bigger, right? But you were a part of something that not a lot of people were doing. Like I said, I came across your channel. You're putting out content before it was watered down like it is right now. It's a disaster out there how much content is being put out because they heard from another YouTube channel, and it's so easy to paint a fucking picture that you're not, that's why it's like, man, I almost in a sense gave up on my own vlogs, even though I never would. But it's kind of like I put you know how much work it is putting into a vlog, and especially when you want to get a good point out. Like you're like, this is going to be fucking awesome. You think to yourself, and then of course, because you have to look at numbers on YouTube, the numbers aren't there, and you're like, what the fuck's that all about? And you're almost thinking like someone's on YouTube's end out to get you or some shit. But the algorithm is just it's crazy how it works, bro. Like, and YouTube will make you pay if you don't drink their juice. You know what I mean?
No, and that's something, I mean, it's hard because I started the YouTube channel mainly because there was nothing else out there, but two, I was tired of typing responses to the questions I was getting all the time. Right. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to film a video. And I was filming them and I was putting them on Facebook and Instagram. But that's something you can't search for. Once you post it on Facebook, it's gone in a couple days, depending on how active you are. But there's no way that I could just kind of catalog this. So that's why I started the YouTube channel. Everybody said, don't do it. That's ridiculous. No one's going to watch. But I really didn't care about that. I still don't care about that. now that I'm paying to have the YouTube videos filmed and edited, obviously numbers count. So I do want to see the channel grow. I'm paying a little bit more attention to the analytics because there's a cost associated with it. It's not inexpensive, and I'm getting a fantastic deal by Tom doing this for me.
That's
However,
awesome.
the goal is to pay him a lot more because his quality of videos is certainly worth it. Every time we film, we've only filmed a couple times and we've done some one-offs at shows, but every time we film, we're finding things we want to tweak and improve. So I think where we started and where this is going to go is going to be significantly better. As you know, a year from now, it's the progress. I can't wait to see how the channel progresses, but also the quality and the content that we're producing is just going to just take it continuously to the next level.
Yeah, so I mean, not even 4 years ago, you had videos like 40K, 100K, like you were fucking slaying the views a few years ago. And like I said, like you were putting out stuff that people weren't finding anywhere else, you know, and you built quite the reputation as far as being a legitimate breeder and keeper throughout the years because of your background and who you worked with and whatnot. But the thing is, like, I'm curious, back then when you were making these videos, was it a weekly thing? Were you really consistent back then?
No, it was terrible. No, it was like whenever I just felt like it. Sometimes it would be twice a week. Sometimes it would be once a month, once every 4 months. It was just whenever I had an idea in my head, whenever I got a new question. At times I would try to be consistent with the schedule, but I'm all about sustainability. So I would love to be producing one video every day, 2 videos a week. I just don't think that's sustainable in the long term for me to do that. So we're going to target weekly videos. But when I started it, I mean, it was literally a camera phone propped up against a wall, and I was talking into the front-facing camera. The quality was terrible, but those videos, I sent it to Tom the other day and said, Tom, this video has almost 1 million views on it, and it was filmed on my camera phone with the front-facing camera. And it brought me, I don't know, $8,000 in YouTube revenue just from that one video that was filmed on my front-facing camera. And it's not about the revenue, but what we're trying to look at now is what types of videos do really well for the audience that I have. Everybody has a niche, and I'm still going to do those one-off videos. I really don't care about the analytics and the statistics that much, but I do need to pepper in that core audience. If I'm getting bit, everybody loves it, but I don't want to get bit on camera. But all the how to handle aggressive defensive snakes, kind of get into the mind of the animal, those videos do well. Usually general care videos do well. My target audience is more of the newer entry level keepers, and there's peppered in information for the people who are a little bit more advanced. But that's what I like. I like that market. That's the animals that I breed for. I mean, that's the market where people are getting into the hobby and they need the education, and they're getting ridiculed in Facebook groups or wherever they're trying to post questions. So they divert to YouTube and try to find these answers to these questions where they can kind of do their own self-research before posting a post on Facebook and getting blasted with 100 comments from people who honestly probably just got their own snake 6 months ago themselves. So it's one of those things.
I definitely just appreciate content where I feel like the person I'm looking at or listening to, I feel like that's them. You know what I mean? I felt like when I came across your content, I'm like, this is who this dude is in real person. You're very straightforward, but like, you know, you kind of laid it down where almost any idiot can understand how like what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like you made it easy, but then yet fun also to like learn about what you were there to learn for. And also like you have videos where people are on the hunt finding out the answers to their situations. Like me and the mites, like back when I realized that you could get a snake shipped to your fucking doorstep. I had no control. Like I was going ballistic with imports. And then I met a guy who was getting imports and we worked a deal out and it was just really bad. But then I remember there was a time where I just didn't know how to take care of these mites. And you taught me about a quarantine. Like my first quarantine, lesson or whatever came from your videos for sure. What you do to any snake when it first comes in and where it goes for the first, I think 3 days or something. I forget. I can't really remember. It's been a while, but like you had a strict process of how you handle these. And that's what made me realize, dude, this isn't just as easy as getting whatever you can and throwing it together in one room. Like you're going to run into problems. And sure enough, I ran into a lot of problems, man.
I mean, I make them through personal experience.
Right.
I screwed up more than most people, and I want people to not screw up. So that's why I do these videos. And
Same.
still going to do it. I mean, they're going to watch my video and do the exact opposite, and that's fine. They don't need to listen to me, but the information's there for the people who want to. And I mean, again, I'm still screwing up. I'm still learning every time I speak to different people, speak with yourself. Everybody has different levels of knowledge and that they can bring, but I've learned a few things through my mistakes over the years, and I try to put those things out there. So it's just part of the process. If you're keeping reptiles, you're going to get mites. If you say, oh, I won't have mites, well, one day you will, because it's just inevitable. It's going to happen. I've been very lucky. Haven't had mites in a long time, but I follow that protocol now religiously. I try to do this because the risk of me getting mites, I mean, I would have to shut down. I wouldn't be able to sell things. I would have to, just to change the bedding in this room alone. You mentioned use COCO. I use COCO too. If I had to change the bedding from this room, I'd probably have to buy a 20 or 30 yard dumpster just to take all the bedding out and throw it away. And the work that's involved in that, it is me putting the snake in water for a few days. Kevin McCurley actually, he told me to do that. And I was like, dude, I'm not putting a snake in water for 3-4 days straight. He's like, a week. And I said, Kevin, I'm not putting a snake in water for a week. He's like, just do it. And I did it. And they were actually his animals. So I said, all right, well, if they're your animals and they die, they're on you.
On your call, yeah.
He says, just do it. So I did it, and everything worked out fine. And I've done it probably hundreds, if not, maybe not thousands, but definitely multiple hundreds of times. And every animal works out fine unless the animal was sick or you put too much water. So don't put too much water. Watch the video. If somebody's curious on mites, watch that video. We're going to do kind of a shorter compressed video. The mites video, we're trying to get more topic specific. If somebody has mites, they're Googling, how to fix mites, or they're searching on YouTube, how to fix mites, how to get rid of mites. They don't want to watch a 30-minute video. They want 5 minutes. How do I fix my problem right now? I'm in freak out panic mode. So we're trying to cater those videos where if it's a longer video, maybe it's something that people want to watch longer. If it's a short video, it's because it's more of a quick topic, emergency topic. I want the answer and I'm out.
Right. And in 2024, you tell me if I'm wrong here, Jason, 2024, there are so many people out there who are not only reputable, but you could start collections with their animals and you'll never have to worry about a mite in your entire fucking life. And tell me if that's true, because you're not like dabbling into imports or having to worry about quarantines. Like can a mite come from nowhere? Meaning if you had a collection for years, everything's been clean, nothing's been added. Do mites pop up?
No, a mite has to come from somewhere.
Right.
So,
exactly.
And this is another video topic I have coming. I don't know when it's coming up. We filmed the video already, but I don't want to keep pushing my YouTube. It's more just, this is fascinating. Yeah. Is when you purchase a snake, you're purchasing the breeder. You're purchasing their history, their quarantine, their protocols. So their information 5 years from now, you're purchasing, can I call this person or can I message this person in 5 years and get an answer to my question? In a week, can I get an answer to my question? And if somebody says no, if they're not comfortable, they don't think that they're going to be able to get a hold of that person a year from now, then they probably shouldn't buy from them. And that's what makes entry level or entering the market of reptiles so challenging. Is there's a lot of new keepers. They're starting with good intentions, but you see a lot of people dropping out. So it's really hard to break that barrier into becoming a new reptile breeder, because there's a level of trust that someone like myself has. I've been doing this for over 30 years now. I've been breeding for over 25. That's a long time. I'm not going anywhere. So unless I die, which I hope I don't, I have too many things in motion to die tomorrow. But unless I die tomorrow, I'm probably still going to be here in 10, 15, 20, 30 years. At least I hope so.
And to think of the power of domino effect bad advice could be for, like, not only that person, but the person that person gave that bad advice to, and we're probably seeing like quite the bit of a volume of people who are coming out of the game because of COVID and whatnot, because they were given really poor advice. You know what I mean? Like, and mainly when I say advice, it was money signs, money. I'm breeding this shit because guess what? I'm about to be rich. I'm about to be Kabelka or somebody on YouTube. And that's when, oh man, it sucked in people who weren't really reptile lovers. Like I guess they were, but getting that deep, they became not as big as reptiles that they thought they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot of work, as you know, and I certainly know. I mean, it's a lot of work to do what we're doing. And it's not even so much that it's a lot of work. It's constant. These are live animals. And that was a point I made in that video, is this isn't, I'm not selling watches. I'm not selling sneakers. This isn't something that I can put in a closet and not look at again for another 6 months if I don't feel like it. That you always have to feel like it. And if you don't feel like it, you have to figure out a way to feel like it. So everybody says, oh, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I don't think that's a true statement, because work is still work. Anything you have to do is, I love reptiles, but it's still work. There's days where I just don't want to do it. And I mean, Wabi Sabi Exotics, that's Zach Cohen, he works for me. There's days when I'm here and I just don't want to do it, but I do it because there's no alternative. They're live animals. You have to consistently keep up with them. And I think that's the most challenging piece of the reptile breeding component. And I mean, sales all aside, sales is a whole different piece. And I do want to touch on that slightly, that everybody has something unique about them. So in my background, we go through, and I can immediately, in 5 minutes of talking to some of the folks on these community chats, I can figure out what's unique about that person. It's just a matter of, are they going to implement it? Are they going to set themselves apart from myself or yourself or whoever else, so that they show others that what's unique about them and is valuable, and people will be enticed in purchasing from them. A lot of people just kind of do the bare minimum, or they don't think that far in advance, where they think they're nothing special. Everybody has a unique thing about them. And as long as they're being genuine in themselves, and that's something I learned on YouTube, is I don't really care what people think about me. Just going to be myself. And obviously, you know, how someone like Kevin, he called me the other day and he said, Kevin McCurley, he says, dude, you are so different than when I met you. Well, yeah, I know. I've got a little bit older. I work in the corporate world. I can't make, you know, some of the jokes that I used to make anymore. I don't even find some of the jokes I used to make before funny. So he's like, dude, your personality's dead. He called me Vanilla. He says, I'm going to just call you Vanilla from now on. And I, you know what, to his, you know, benefit, yes, I am pretty vanilla now, but it's kind of, I'm finding my place, and this is me. I mean, I'm getting a little older, and I still get my dad jokes now, but it's, you know, that's been, I'm vanilla, I guess, but the content is there. The information is there to help others. And if they don't like it, that's fine. They don't need to subscribe. They don't need to watch. They don't need to follow me. But if they do, hopefully they find value in it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I tell people all the time. And this is probably coming with the new era of keeping reptiles. Like, you got to know how to delegate and deal with the people. Like, you have to become a people person now. And what I mean by that is, like, not really caring what everyone says, but like, know how to, you know, dodge it and work around it and just continue on, because one of the things you just said, and it's a lot easier said than done for most people, is just be themselves. Like, all I could do is just be me and be happy with who I am and just press forward. A lot of people feel like they're not good enough for whatever reason, or they're not what they want to portray themselves to all these people they're coming around with. That's why it's like, at the end of the day, like, we're just keeping reptiles, right? But some people want it more than others, you know, and mind you, like, dude, I can't tell you what kind of life I was in at that time before I came into this world, but I owe everything to this. Like, my whole life changed, man. Like, how I was fucking 7-8 years ago. I still not all the way there yet, you know, but day by day, and I want to change. I'm like you, I've calmed down quite a bit, you know, because I do realize the way I act definitely reflects on my life. Like if I were to have a blowout, like, podcast, right? If I were to make this all about Kevin McCurley right now, whatever backlash, whatever would come with it, is it really worth it, or even worth, like, having even dealt with chirpers and shit like that? And mind you, like, I still speak it how it is, but there's just a time and place for everything now, you know? And just like how you find certain things funny or used to, like, is it worth doing it where you're at now in life? You know what I mean? It's just different.
Yeah, it's different, and that's a natural progression, and I'm fine with that. If you know, I'm still friends with everybody. I don't care if they don't like me. That's fine. I don't care if they even respect me. I really don't care. And I think that's kind of something that I've always had, that mindset. I mean, when I was younger, nobody even knew I had reptiles. I was just it was the weird thing to have reptiles, and now it's become a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more acceptable. It's still a kind of weird to a lot of people, but again, I don't care. And that was a big breaking point in myself and in, you know, keeping reptiles in general, is I got over the fear of, what if this person judges me? And I'm like, you know what? I don't really care. Once I got to a certain age, I stopped caring what other people thought about me, And that's when my business and everything really started to blow up and explode to a point where it's very profitable now is reptiles and everything else. And I saw this domino effect of the less I cared about what other people thought, the more gravitating that was to others. And that was not my intention. It was just, and that still isn't my intention, is to get a whole bunch of followers. I could care less if I have 2 million or 20 million subs. I would like it. But at the same time, if it doesn't happen, it's not going to break my heart. I'm not going to quit reptiles. I do this because I love it first, and then everything else is secondary. But everybody has a unique component about themselves. And there's somebody that will relate to that and associate with that. So if you're just yourself, and obviously you kind of evolve, you learn. I saw a post on Facebook today, and 3 times it popped up on my feed, and 3 times I almost chimed in, and I just said, no, it's just not worth it. So like the experiences that I've had of, do I really want to waste my time? That's the other thing, is as I get busier, my time becomes more valuable. And as I start getting into these arguments on Facebook, I'm like, what am I even arguing with this person for? Yeah. There was something today, and I was going back and forth, and they just didn't want to hear it. And I just said, you know what? I didn't want to deal with this. I just blocked them, which I don't like to do. I don't like to block people, but like, you are clearly just arguing to argue, and I don't have time for that. So
I have a timer now. So when I know I want to block someone, I time myself on how quick I could block them. And I think the quickest I'm at is 0.8 seconds. I'm pretty good now. I'm pretty fucking I'm pretty quick, only because it's like, mind you, like it takes, I don't want to say it takes a lot, but if I know you're here to fuck with me, like if I know this is why you're here, you're gone. Like, you know what I mean? Like a threat or like some stupid stuff, like, and it's unfortunate, but I have people who still try to act hard towards me for some reason. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, and I know I'm not going to go nowhere. I know they want a reaction. Like if I know you're coming to me for a reaction and it ain't about that reptiles or animals or my podcast, you're gone. Like I don't care. And it doesn't happen a lot, but trust me, it still happens. You know what I mean? But also too, like one thing that we're both in a position in is like, we rather save our energy and chime with our audience. Like we have people who value what we say, Jason, right? And I'm obviously I can speak for you because I learned from you so much back in the day and still do today. So you know that you could sit and give your 2 cents in front of a bunch of people who would actually fucking value what you have to say, which how much further does that go versus chiming in the goddamn comments? You know what I mean?
And that's it, man. I want to help people, and that's just in my nature. I want to help people, and some people do, some people don't. That's fine. But right. I want to help people. I want to help them advance in reptiles. And when I find somebody that just is it seems like you can help them, and after you kind of do a couple comments back and forth, this person just doesn't, they don't want to know, or they already have their mind made up. I just kind of stopped the conversation. Where before, I mean, you'd have 100 comments going back and forth, and I don't have time for that. I got a family. I'd rather be, I'm sitting here taking time away from my kid when I'm talking to this person, and I'd rather just be hanging out with my kid. So it's not that I don't want to help people, and I will go into those dialogues if I think it will help other people who may read it. But I found a cap on that now, and that's, I'm still trying to balance that, because it's hard when somebody says something about you. You want to comment back. You want to not so in one, educate, but two, kind of defend yourself. And that's something I'm still trying to get away from, is every comment isn't worth responding to if it's purposely placed just to get a rise out of you.
I just think Facebook is impossible to hash anything out in, because you're just going to have some fucked up, twisted person in that comment who's just not happy enough with whatever it is that you had to reply with or whatever. Like Facebook is just a dwelling pit of people who just want to be upset. And like, mind you, you might get across to some people, but if you were like to sit there and worry about the ratio of how many people actually like you now, good luck. Like if you put yourself out there in Facebook, you're going to get cooked. I'm telling you right now. Like, and that's why you delegate the way you do. I'm there for research purposes now. I barely chime in. I'll drop a link to an episode, and that's it. I'll keep it moving, but it's still a good sourceable place to find picks and to find like people of conversations talking about stuff. Like it's still a place to geek out over reptiles, but to be involved with a lot of the communities in those groups, like you gotta, I don't know. I got too much going on, period.
I do that. I mean, every time when I'm looking for different YouTube topics, if I'm stuck, I'm going to go on a Facebook group, see what questions are being asked. See if there's a good one that I'm like, that's worth addressing. That's not as simple as yes or no. Sometimes it is as simple as yes or no. Like, is my snake a boa imperator or boa constrictor, BCC or BCI? Made a video on that because it was asked repeatedly. Like, I mean, and that's still kind of a newbie question, but I thought it was worth putting out a content. I do need to remake that video because it's not necessarily old, but I don't speak. I flip flop my words often, and I get comments, people saying, "Well, I'm more confused than I was before." I'm like, all right, time to remake that video. So that's what I'm working on, is kind of ramping up the content, focusing on myself. I really don't pay attention to what a lot of other people are doing. I will, but not in the sense where I want to hate on them or things like that. It's more just out of curiosity. I just want everybody to do really well in this hobby, and I think we can do really well. It's not the pipe dream is, yeah, we can all get along. That will never happen. But if everybody worries about themselves more than the other person, they would do a lot better. I mean, the amount of time and energy people put into worrying about what somebody else is doing just totally sucks all the energy out of people and makes them chase things that are maybe not realistic for them.
Yeah. You know, I mean, just the thought of like worrying about something that has no effect on your life, you know, like whatever that person is doing, what about your life? That's what I like, for instance, like you and I have so much to worry about ourselves where, no offense, like I just think I ain't got that free world. I don't have that, you know, but mind you, how many kids you got, Jason? 1, 2?
I got 1 kid and I got another one coming in September. So life's going to get
what a blessing. So how old, and you have a daughter, right?
I got a boy and I got another boy coming. So
all right, cool. You have a boy.
How
old is your boy?
About 2.5, and he's awesome, dude. He comes down here and he holds all the snakes. And my only problem is he starts pulling open the bins, and I'm like, dude, don't do that. Like, you're gonna get bit in the face by this big snake. So he doesn't open the bins anymore, but he just holds them, and he's always liked holding them. So I'll give him some stuff that's not gonna bite him. And he loves it. Like, even the mice, I posted a video. I know you saw it, where he was playing.
Yeah, okay, right. Okay.
he doesn't know that the mice disappear and there's new mice every other week. But I have the mice, and he's really likes. The problem is he'll go in and grab them and just like look at them and hold them. Like, dude, you can't do that. You're gonna get bit. So it's the kid's fun.
Yeah, man. So what? My point exactly right now is like, how much has the energy shifted since having a kid too? Right, like. Now that you got this boy and you're seeing all these crazy chapters, like him noticing the mice and what you do, it's like, man, like, aren't you just all about your peace right now, bro? Like, isn't that all about what it is? It's just protecting the peace for yourself and your loved ones, and don't let anything breach that, right? Like, isn't that how you feel?
Absolutely. And that was really my kid changed my life. I mean, it really did, as I know yours did probably as well. Or I'm just going to say it did in ways that, you know, people don't understand until they have a kid. But I did bring on a couple people to help me. So Wabi Sabi Exotics is one, and Revive Reptiles another, and another guy. He doesn't even have social media, but he has some banging animals. But I brought them on to help me to just somewhat lighten the burden of cleaning everything. They all have super clean collections, and you know, we have discussions like, hey, dude, if you get a new animal, you got to let me know when you get it, who you got it from. That way I know that the risks that's a component that we were speaking of mites is, well, if they get mites, I probably will get mites too. So they follow the same protocols, and we just have a really good understanding. They've been with me for a few years now. Awesome people, and they're probably watching right now. So I don't want to hype them up, guys. Don't get your head too big, but no, they're good people. And I think they've helped me more than I can express. And even in their ways, I would not have a Patreon if it wasn't for Zach, Wabi Sabi Constrictors, or Wabi Sabi Exotics. He just changed his name. I love it too, Wabi Sabi.
So I know that. So his last name's Cohen, right?
Yes.
Nice, dude. That's a cool new name, bro. I had no idea. I wish you would have told us that. That's sick. Wabi Sabi Exotics. Fuck yeah, I like that name.
But I wouldn't have my Patreon if it wasn't for him. He's like, dude, why don't you have a Patreon? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I just don't have time for it. I'm already tapped out for time. And he's like, yeah, but it's good. And I love the Patreon calls. We do community chats where it's smallish, 5 to 15 people, and it's one-on-one style, a couple hours long. We just free form, like no judgment. Let's just get questions out there. and it's a lot of fun for me, and I think the people in it. One of the patrons, did his first reptile show. I think it was at the Mass Reptile Expo. He's going to be in the video that we're dropping tomorrow, and he killed it. I mean, I love him because he's always taking detailed notes.
Yeah,
he's
awesome.
Reaper Reptiles, but he's always taking detailed notes, and I just like when he went up, I'm like, dude, this looks awesome. You got the banner, you got the tablecloth, everything looks perfect. You standing there, you're professional, you're selling. You didn't sit down the whole damn day. I mean, how many times you go to a reptile show and the person behind the table sitting there on their phone and like they're not even looking up and they're just waiting for people to buy things from them.
Yeah.
And he did all of the above, where he was just standing there talking to everybody in a way where he didn't care if a sale came out of it. He just wants to know people. And I think that's a huge component of the sales. But he crushed it, dude. He did better than I did. He did have some unique reptiles there, so I'll throw that in there. But he did better than I did in terms of total dollar value, in terms of number of animals sold, and that was his very first show, and I was super happy to see that.
Who is this? Throw his name out there. Fuck, give him some clout. Who was it? Who are we talking about?
Dana from Reaper Reptiles. So,
Reaper Reptiles?
Yeah, REAPER Reptiles. He's on Instagram. Go check him out, Reaper Reptiles.
All right.
He's new to the breeding scene, but he's definitely not new to reptiles, and he's just doing some really cool stuff. He's taken a methodical approach. He really wants to get to know people, and I love that about a breeder, is somebody who gives a crap about the person, about the customer, and that's something I think is missed. They care more about the customer than or they care more about the sale than the customer. And I mean, there was somebody at the show. He's bought a few animals from me. I know I could have sold him a snake. I could have sold it, but I want everybody to walk away when I do shows, and I don't do many of them anymore, but I want everybody to walk away knowing that they bought that animal for themselves, and it wasn't because I sold it to them. I can be pretty good at selling, and I don't want to, and I don't, that's not a toot my own horn, but I don't want to sell something. I want people to buy it. And that's fault too. I could have a much more successful business if I sold reptiles. I just produce them and people buy them.
That's why I'm glad I didn't get into this like in the 90s or 2000s, where like being a shark was like, you were like a rock star back then if you could sell the shit out of animals. But now it's like we're at a place where like, I mean, think about the pressures of getting an animal that's not fit for you, and then you have to deal with that at some point, which could more likely get you out of keeping reptiles forever. And I think that's something I'm always thinking about, because I mean, dude, I'm a shark. My background with sales is fucking pretty extensive. Like I have a really good solid sales background, but I don't press, or I don't have that pushy like shark tasting in a sense when it comes to like showing someone an animal that's for sale at my booth, because I almost don't want to say I want to talk you out of it, but I just really want you to understand that this is a living thing, and like would hate for you to have to resell this someday. Like this is something that you want it to pass away with you someday. You know what I mean? But mind you too, like it's just kind of like, thank God I came into this not caring about money. Even though I was broke coming into this, I just didn't try to do this for any kind of money purposes. Like all of that stuff came when the stars aligned, but I just don't feel, and also too, because I got in a sale, and goddamn, it's crazy to think how much money you can make off one reptile, right? Like, even though a lot of sweat and tears, a lot of investment goes into it, all it takes is a couple good sales, and you just feel really good, you know? And I know how much giving the reptile world's been to me also. So, and I don't know, I just feel very blessed to be where we're at in the reptile world, and the people who continue to come back and give us business, the returning customers. I just feel like you don't need to push anything if you do it right and if you do it slow.
Yeah. And if you treat those customers right, they will be repeat customers. Even the ones that just want pets, not always, but people who are just kind of in this as a hobby level. And frankly, that's my predominant market. Everybody, it's nice to think like ball pythons really started this breeder almost pyramid scheme, I'll call it, where you can buy this animal. I hate to use that term, but it is. But I mean, the ironic thing is the reptile market really is a pyramid where everybody is, or I shouldn't say everybody, but the large majority of breeders are trying to appeal to the top of the pyramid, and they forget that the bottom of the pyramid are basic hobbyist keepers who just want a pet. And they neglect that market. And that's really, I mean, that's my sweet spot. I go for pet developers and people who might want to be breeders. And then I also have the breeder level animals, but that's what I built my business on. So I always encourage people, if you're getting into reptiles, one, make sure it's something you like. Don't do it because you're chasing value. If you like that $100 animal, buy that $100 animal, breed that $100 animal. There is a customer for you. There's probably more customers for your $100 animals than there are for your $10,000 animals, especially if you don't have a reputation. And that reputation is only built by the people at the bottom of the pyramid. On the flip side, there are ways to jump right to the top, but you better be dropping some big money. And that's where some people have been very successful, but most people don't have the capital to do that, to jump right to the top. I mean, you have to go spend, I would say, minimum $50,000 to $100,000 on really banging reptiles, be very strategic, and you can jump to the top. And even with very little marketing, just because the animals you produce will give you that marketing all in its own nature. But to build it, if you don't have that bankroll, you don't have that investment behind you, and that's a huge risk because animals die, stuff happens, and if things don't go well, and as somebody who's never bred anything before, it's not like I'm going to start a coffee shop, I'm going to start a jewelry store, I'm going to start some type of a store. These are things that is customer specific. The market fluctuates, it changes. This isn't a house, this is a reptile, and the market is for the reptiles. And your investment could go sour really quickly. But where I'm going is people neglect that base, that pyramid base. I like that. That's the people who are getting into the reptile hobby. And a question that I like to ask people who come to me is specifically, oh, I just want a pet. So, well, will you ever breed in the future? Because if you will, maybe it's worth spending an extra $100 or $200 now. Let's get something with some hets in it. So that's where the sales comes in. And it's not a sales pitch, but it's more, I want to help somebody of, okay, you like the visual look of this animal. What's your budget? Can you spend another $100? Because if you do, I can get you the same visual look, but if you decide to breed in the future, this is going to give you a much more powerful, diverse litter that will help your business in the future. So I think that's a component I try to bring to customers is if they just want a pet, yeah, buy that one right there, buy whatever you like. But if you may, even like a small 1% chance you may breed in the future, spend a little bit more, buy this one. It's $100 more. And it's give you a litter that's a matter of making a $1,000 litter or a $10,000 litter. It's for another $100 now. It's nominal to what you could make if you might breed in the future.
Yeah, and it's going back to like a way to not having to push sales is, you have a lot of these people who start at this base like you're talking about who come to you eventually because, they start with the base animal, but you, for the most part, still give them something to where like, hey, for some reason, if you do want to breed, you'll make some cool shit with that snake, right? And you kind of implant that in their head to where a couple years goes by. And if they follow your work, if there's somebody who always comments about your productions, that baby's pretty, well, guess what? There's going to be a time and place where they're going to have that conversation with you and saying, well, what do I need to do if I want to make this or that? And I'm sure you get that all the time. People just come to you and they will come to you. If that energy's out there and you're doing what you should be doing, all these customers that want to turn the leaf as far as going from pet keeping to like, let's turn this into a project, they come to you.
Yeah. And I like that because I do genuinely want to help them. I want to set them up. Everybody's goals are different. I mean, there was a Facebook post, I did get into it, and somebody, I don't even remember their name. I wouldn't mention it if I did, but
doesn't matter.
they were talking about blood bows, and they're like, oh, if it's anything but, this ideal look, we're going to cull the babies. And I guess they're a dog breeder as well, but that was off culling. But the ideal look for you is not the same as the ideal look for somebody else. And yes, there is the majority of people may like one certain look in a certain animal. They may, I don't do ball pythons, but like a pastel, the simplest one I know, a super nice pastel. Everybody knows what a super nice pastel looks like. But there's still people that don't want that. They want the other one. Blood bow is specific. I mean, a really rich, deep red blood is appealing to a lot of people, but people still want the very pale, pastel-looking bloods. Not to say you should cull that animal or remove it from a breeding program. Everybody likes something different, and there is something for everybody. And that's what I like about the reptile hobby in general is people can just be themselves, like what they like, but social media makes it too kind of put everything in a box. This isn't dog breeding.
I see.
And just like dog breeding, dude. I mean, you got the perfect, ideal, purebred dog. But some people like, dude, that thing looks like it's going to die. That's a terrible bred dog. That's useless. It's just everybody likes something different.
Right. That's so true. And it's kind of why it's also so unfortunate, but the ball python game can make people come into this where they're doing something that someone else is already doing. And it's kind of like, dude, you need to find out like what's all out there and see what your eyes like. And just like how you shop on fucking Amazon or you put things in a cart, that's what you do. You know, you don't just go in and say, well, I'm going to go make that because that person is making that. Like, you got to find out what it is that you're really trying to make, you know, especially when a lot of this stuff that we're talking about costs money. Like, these are huge investments, right? And this kind of leads back to why there's a lot of people looking around at a lot of stuff that they can't sell. And guess what? At the end of the day, they really don't want it. Like, they were there because they thought we were going to make money. And now that the money's not there and oh my God, the price went down on this and that, they drag their feet when they go to their snake room now. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you're doing that, then you should somehow find a place for all these snakes, because they don't deserve to be kept if you can't fucking have, like you said, like for me, I learned right away, man, no matter how you feel, you need to go in that fucking room and you got to handle business, because there's some things that will just weigh on you. Like, I feel guilty as shit a lot. You know what I mean? When, especially in the beginning where I laid this bed and I had all these species and I knew I was weighing over my head, but there was times back when I had a 9 to 5 or whatever you want to call it, I was fucking, doesn't matter what time I got home from work, I was in that room, I was busting ass, and that was like my drive, because how much I loved it. But goddamn, like, a lot of people don't understand that's what you need to be longevity in this game. You got to want to do the stuff that you don't want to do sometimes.
Yeah, I was up at 4 o'clock this morning taking pictures of animals for the website. I mean, I did not want to get up at 4 o'clock this morning, but I was up at 4 o'clock this morning, and I spent a couple hours before my kid woke up taking pictures. I was, editing them and cropping them, taking out little specks of dirt. And I hate that stuff, but it's part of the whole breeding cycle.
Right.
I deferred it a little bit. I want to get back to something you said, but
Sure.
One thing I see a lot of people doing is they impulse buy, or they buy with no kind of end game in mind. And that's something I think is important, is if you think you're going to breed, you're passionate about reptiles, number one, but you want to breed, you have to pump the brakes a little bit and try to figure out the direction, but don't overthink it. There's kind of this fine balance between under and overthinking. You don't want to be thinking 20 years in advance. You don't really want to even be thinking 5 years in advance. You just want to start buying things that are compatible and things that you like, because many times people will just, I like this, I like that, and they're building this group, but then they're stuck with 10 animals, and half of them won't really go together. The other half don't make anything that's really that good. So now they're going to be producing babies that they don't like, and they don't progress their projects at all. And you have to do a little bit of forward thinking before you just start buying stuff. And that's kind of what you just mentioned to some extent, where you were piecing together stuff that you really liked, but maybe it didn't fit into a business model.
Right. And that's where it was for me. Like, I only got stuff in my collection that I really liked. I found it. I did research on it. Maybe not as much research as I recommend, but I did my research. I got in my collection, and I would obsess over it. But then in my head, I'm like, well, if you're doing this, you're not trying to become a zoo. Like, you want to breed this stuff. And it was for me, and it still is. Majority of stuff is about breeding. I want to breed this because I like making life. I love creating life. It's the coolest thing to see something come out of an egg, or even something come straight out of a snake. But I realized, okay, dude, like, you're on your 3rd year being a reptile keeper and you have 22 species of reptiles. You want to figure out how to fucking breed all this when you could barely keep up the husbandry. Like, it was something that I started realizing. I'm like, dude, like, you could barely keep up on how to keep these things fed. Like, no stuck sheds, like mites back then. Like, as I was dealing with mites, you know what I mean? And mind you, when I would get mites back then, I thought it was over for me. I thought mites was the worst. And mites is still bad. I will say, you don't want mites. Mites could fuck up a lot of things for you. But it was something where I thought this could ruin me if I don't fix this. And I beat myself up hard over those mistakes. And it got easier as I started letting go a lot of these species. And I was like, okay, dude, if you want to be serious about this breeding shit, be serious with what makes sense. Like, what really is compatible with your goals here. And I got to say, over 12 of those species were not compatible.
Yeah. One of the hardest parts about entering into the market, and I hate to use the term market collection.
Right.
I'll just throw that out there. I'm going to use it, market collection,
It is
because
what it is. Yeah.
that's just the term. But one of the biggest challenges is picking what you want to do, picking a direction, and not getting too overwhelmed, not getting too diversified. It's fine if you have a couple pets. I have pets. I mean, I have corn snakes. I have different colubrids. I brought in some gray banded king snakes a few years ago because I just want to try breeding them.
Right.
But I don't care if I have a big enough kind of collection or big enough group that keeps the business moving, and I have the caging that I can play with stuff like that. But when you're first getting started, the costs are real, and the stuff that people don't even track costs money. So, somebody might say, well, it's not that expensive. Well, if you actually tracked all of your expenses, you're probably losing money thinking you're gaining money, because you're like, man, I just sold this $400 snake. I made $10,000 in reptile sales this year. Yeah, well, you spent $2,000 in rodent food. You spent $1,000 in your electric. You spent $5,000 in caging. And when you add it all up, you spent $400 in printer ink. Like printer ink, you have to track all the little stuff that people don't fully think about. Snake bags, mileage, driving to and from the shipping hubs. Like that all costs money, and people don't track that. They track the high level stuff. All right, I bought a $2,000 cage. I sold a $2,000 snake. I'm at break even. But then you have your labor. And so when a business comes in, when you're talking about business, if this is truly a hobby that pays for itself, then you're probably still going to be at a loss depending on what scale you're at. But at some point it flips. And the only way to flip it is to build that reputation so that you can have consistent sales and you can gain that trust. You can get those repeat customers. You can help people build their breeding packages. And if you just focus on that high-end market, it's really hard. Again, not impossible, but it's really hard to break into that as a new entry-level breeder. Even if you have 30 years experience keeping, if nobody knows you, it's really hard to get that trust, because what I said maybe 20 minutes ago is that if I buy an animal from somebody, I am buying every amount of problems that they may or could have in their group. So if they have mites, I bought mites. If they've had mites and there's a disease in that animal, I have that disease now. So who I buy from is very selective, and that's what makes it challenging for a newer breeder coming into this hobby, is it's that unknown, that question mark, and people are doing it the wrong way. They're chipping their prices down, trying to beat, all right, how am I going to beat Jason's Exotic Reptiles? We have two identical boas. I'm going to sell it cheaper than them. That doesn't always work, because there's a certain level a level of trust that I've built, that if somebody gets an animal from me, it's mite-free, disease-free. They have my aftercare. They have the knowledge for that. So you have to build that trust and find that uniqueness of why somebody should buy from you. And price, if price is the only reason, then you're already on a bad business model. It cannot be price. Yeah. Price could be a component. If your animal's half the price of mine, somebody may take a gamble on it, and that's what's happening with auctions. And that's a good piece of the auction, is helps people build a reputation. Ask the customer to give you a review, and if they have success with it, they may buy a full price animal from you. But price cannot be your business model. It's setting yourself up for failure.
No, I mean, it goes way deeper than price. It really does. But like I said, it all depends how many people see what you're saying right now. It all depends how they came into this game. Like I said, man, mentorship's everything. Who you surround yourself with is everything. What you're hearing, what they're saying, right? And that's why it's almost like, oh man, I got to tell you, when I was making money off ball pythons, it was 2020, right? Hard to fucking, right? The meat potatoes of COVID. Yeah. And I was making so much money where I'm like, fuck, why the fuck would I have to track anything? Like, this is crazy. Like, okay, I go to a show. What the fuck cares about my gas, right? But then as you want to turn the leaf and make this a business, which eventually, when I became an LLC 2 years ago, and I made this an LLC, and that money that was once coming just isn't there, and all this stuff is now being accounted for, right? Your rodent bill. Like, the biggest thing, Jason, I almost want to like I want to grab someone by their shoulders and just say, I hope you have a really solid rodent hookup if you want to get into this reptile game. Because if you have no clue how the rodents are going to be delivered to your house, or how you could breed your own rodents, or I don't know how I could do the feeding part, then you shouldn't be thinking about like more than a pet at all, for sure. What are you talking about? Like that's the biggest part of what we do is the rodent side of things. How do you think these things breed and they're alive? Like they need the rodents. You got to feed the breed, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the good thing is we do have a lot of great online suppliers. So at least that's there. I found my local guys there. Most of the time they're more expensive than the online people, just being frank. But I buy in a scale to when I place a rodent order. I mean, I'm buying $5,000-$6,000 at a time. They deal in cash. Well, I can't say, here's a credit card, dude. No, I need $5,000-$6,000 cash. Here's my cash. Here's your cash. Here's my rodents. And they go in 4 freezers that I have that suck up energy every day. So one thing I learned is as I started becoming more profitable, tracking my expenses became way more important because I have to pay taxes on this money now. I mean, it was ripping. I don't know if it was 2021, 2020. I made $45,000 that month. I mean, that's a lot of money to make in a month. I will, it's in 1 month, that's a lot of money. I made somebody's year's salary. So it's a component of when things are cranking, they're cranking, but that's not typical. Now, granted, I make a very substantial, a very good wage off of snakes, but I still work. My father always used to tell me, never quit your day job.
Yeah.
And that relieves all of the pressure off of, if I don't make money with reptiles, will I still be able to keep the reptiles? Can I still pay the bills? Am I gonna lose my house? So I still have my day job, and there's people who have no day job, and that's fine. And they're doing other stuff. I think I don't know if you still work. I don't know. Maybe you do the reptiles and this is your full-time gig.
My podcast is my 9 to 5 technically now. It's been like that for 4 years now.
But this is your job. I mean, you're not like screwing off.
Jason, 7 days a week podcast. All right, coolest reptile network in the world. No one else is doing that. Just to be clear.
No, and I mean, like that is your job. It's not like you're screwing off for like 6 days a week and you're making 1 podcast a week. Like you are checking in. You're giving this this is your 9 to 5, and like if you're prepared to do that, you're gonna be fine. And I'm just going to guess that you are probably doing much better than a lot of other people who maybe have a similar collection, similar animals, because you have that branding and that marketing and you're putting a lot of effort into it. And it's not easy. I know you would admit that it's not easy. It's a lot of work from what you do.
No, it's stressful, but only because, it's up to me, right? And that's why I was so good at sales, because I was getting these jobs where, like, if you don't sell, you're not gonna make shit. Like, you write your own check type of thing. And that made me like always hungry to know that there was no limitations on how much money I can make. But really, I always knew it was up to me. Like, if I want to get something in life, no one's going to get it but myself, right? So, I do have to thank the timing for when this podcast started, because it was during COVID where a lot of people were home. There weren't 100 fucking plus reptile podcasts out there. And I was able to, like I said, the job I had, I worked at Office Depot, which I was not in retail like that at all. It was just something where there was something happening in my life where I got that job, and it was a really shitty job. COVID happened, that job shut down, and I got an unemployment, and I used that unemployment money for that 9 months to fucking act like I was treating the podcast as a full-time job. But then I was able to discover sponsorships and like take everything to the next level because of that,
Yeah. And that's, there's times where I go back and forth, and I talk about it with my guys when we're cleaning all the time is, man, should I just go full-time reptiles? Because it's sustainable as it is to pay all my bills. I could go full-time reptiles, and I could take this to the next level. But I think we talked about it a year or two ago when we did the first episode of this, is I don't want to lose the passion. And I know myself, and if I have to breed reptiles, that passion is going to die quickly, because it's going to be a lot of pressure of, I need to make this work. I need these animals to breed. I may put animals at risk because I need to get the babies. And that's something I didn't want to put myself into the situation of, I need to make these animals because I need to pay my mortgage this month. My bills are overdue. And that's something that I just didn't want to do. So I made the decision, and I still play with the idea because business is still excellent. And I'm so grateful to be able to say that. And I really do think it has a lot to do with marketing, being personable, and not even personable, but being able to, I talk to people like they're people. And I would say never underestimate the power of thank you. I can never say thank you enough. It
Right.
goes a long way. I don't even care if you want to hear it. I'm going to tell it to you probably 4 times in the course of when you've given me my money to the time you leave, is that I'm just very thankful for people who want to come and they see value in things that I produce and they chose to buy from me versus somebody else. Because there's a lot of options out there. And thank you goes a long way.
You've had Patreon for how long now? A year yet or not yet?
I think a little bit over a year. I don't even know. It's but the Patreon is something I want to try to figure out ways to ramp up the other tiers. So I have a couple tiers, and really I use it for that community chat tier. I like that tier. I feel like people who are in it get a lot of benefit. Then I have a couple higher up tiers where there's one-on-one calls. It's just like this. We get on a Zoom call and whatever's on your mind. I've done everything from people building breeding groups. We will literally scroll MORPH market. They tell me what they want. I'd say, yeah, this is a good breeder and this is a solid looking animal, or I have no idea about this breeder, but if I were to buy it, that's the animal I'd buy. So it's not always about selling my stuff. A lot of the patrons don't. They have there's a few people who have a bunch of stuff from me. There's some people that have nothing from me, and I'm fine with that. It's whatever they want to bring it to. I had one guy, and we literally he was on the most expensive tier where we do 2 calls a month, and it's not cheap, but we would go through his reptile room. He stayed on for about 5 months. Every other week we would go through, and I'd be like, dude, pair that snake. That snake is ready to breed. See what I'm looking at. This is what I'm seeing that snake's doing. And through that process, he learned exactly what I'm seeing and what I look for when I pair. And he made like 500 babies, like to the point where what do I do with this? And I'm like, well, let's talk about that too, because now there's pressure relief valves. You don't have to sell 500 babies. There's wholesales, there's pet stores, there's things we can do. Keep these ones back, sell these off as a big group, and it worked out okay for him. But he just killed it. I'm like, dude, all of his boas gave him like 50 babies a piece. I'm like, man, if I have one boa that gives me 50 babies, I'm freaking out.
That's crazy. But that's kind of like where it makes everything what it is. It's like, you're like, well, Junior, on to the next chapter. Now we're going to learn how to sell snakes.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And the good thing is that he had through the process, I was telling him, dude, don't forget about your branding, your marketing, make social media posts, comment on other people's posts, make stuff that's unique, show yourself, and you're going to be fine. And he did. And it was just really cool to see the transformation of, he's been in the hobby for a long time. It was all him. It had nothing to do with me. All I did was give him a little bit of, this is what I see going on, pair that thing. And then once he did it, the next call, he's like, hey, this snake is doing the exact same thing you were talking about. Should I pair it? I'm like, yeah, pair it. He's like, dude, they locked. Like within the next day, they were all locked up. She ovulated for me. And so it was a process. But I feel like it's kind of the less expensive tiers, I want to step up the benefit for them a little bit more. Right. And I'm just somewhat tapped on time, but I am going to get into that. So that's that thank you to the customers and supporters of how can I increase the value in the Patreon for those folks.
And there's people like myself, like I know the value that you could give to a reptile keeper, especially someone who's super wet behind the ears that has no clue, because this is like fucking cliff notes. Like this is like, man, you're getting legit answers to every test that you're about to be tested at some point. And mind you, no matter who gives you the advice, you're going to get kicked in the nuts no matter what, but it feels less of a kick when you are prepared for it. And you're almost like, okay, this could happen, right? And I have a pretty high tier on my Patreon, and only have maybe 1 or 2 people on that tier, but those are people who understand, like we have conversations, right? And they're in-depth conversations they need crazy answers to. And yeah. I gotta tell you, I always get like nothing but like, holy shit, like you helped me out so much. And just that right there alone, man, like I gotta tell you, there's no better feeling out there. I mean, just someone at the lowest tier on my Patreon, when they, and I don't ever need anyone to tell me an explanation why they need to leave my Patreon. But I gotta tell you, like, I am so thankful for even the 1 month that you were part of this. Like, you didn't have to give me nothing. And I've been going on my 4th year now having a Patreon, and I have people who've been been a part of the family the entire 4 years. And I'm like, dude, all I could throw is one huge party for you guys every year, and please come. Food's on me, everything. And then, obviously certain tiers, I talk to people over the phone. So like, this is why it's good to know that you are doing what you can to build a community around you. And that's why, shout out to Zach for encouraging you to do that, Jason. Cause I mean, no offense, you could have done Patreon years ago and killed it for sure. 100%. But
I didn't know. I was like, nah, nobody's gonna care about it. He's like, no, people will just do it. And he was a patron. I think he still is a patron when he works here. So I mean, I appreciate the heck out of that. And it's it's the value that you. I feel like my Patreon is you will get whatever value you want out of it, but it's really, I need to know what you need to see. I'm here. You're a part of my Patreon. Like, give me some comments, give me some questions. That's part of it. Is I was just getting so many questions on Facebook, Instagram that I just couldn't keep up. I mean, there was a point where I was getting 30 to 50 questions a day from different people on my Instagram. And I'm like, I can't even respond to my sales because I'm over here typing questions to people. So I'm losing sales. I'm pissing off customers because I'm trying to respond to somebody's question because I want to. But it got to the point where I just had to snap the line and said, I can't do this anymore. If you guys want to get some more of that personalized care or that personalized attention, go to my Patreon. I promise you I will respond to your questions as soon as I can. And I will still respond to Instagram, Facebook questions. I'm not trying to be like, no, I never want to talk to you people if you're not paying me. It's just a level of prioritization in my life of, customers, patrons, kind of they're both like equal tiers. And then, people who give me those questions on Facebook, Instagram are, you're the priority that after I get through everybody else, I'm gonna respond to you if I have the time, if I don't lose it. It's not because I'm ignoring people or I don't want to answer their questions. I just get a lot of them, and as you know, there's only so much time in a day.
And those days are, man, it's scary, but when you're having fun or whatever it is in life is going your way, days are just going by like that. Like, like my kid's gonna be a year on Tuesday. You got your second kid coming. Like, that's wild, bro.
That's so great.
It doesn't
Congrats.
stop. Thank you, bro. I mean, but this is like I'm living the dream, but the dream's going by quick because these days are just, they zoom by, bro. They really do, But what I was gonna say too, like I hope any advice for any Patreon of mine or yours, I will say, if you are a part of a community that you're paying for, your voice means a lot. You guys should speak up, like, especially if you're trying to learn. If there's something that you're trying to learn, I think you should voice it. And I think that's where Patreon makes it worth it, because you're in a place where you're safe to voice whatever it is you want to learn, whatever topic, whatever it is that you guys need to address. That's a place you do it at, right? And so just anyone out there, closed mouths don't get fed, in a sense, right? You got to open up your mouth if there's something that you really want to learn in any Patreon family.
Yeah, and I mean, not even just, I mean, that's perfect for Patreon, but it made me think of a talk I did years ago. I wasn't even supposed to be doing this talk. It was totally not related to reptiles. It was actually for high school kids going into college.
Oh, nice.
And it was, one thing that it just resonated because everybody loved it. But I really feel strongly about this. Is one of my managers when I was working told me that nobody gives a shit about you. Nobody cares.
That's so true.
You could be the best in the world, but unless you make them notice you, they don't care. So make them notice you. Stop sitting there waiting for somebody to notice you with your sign up. And this applies to reptiles. Stop sitting there waiting for your fancy banner and your expensive displays to get noticed. Make them notice you. Say hi to them. Talk to them. If in anything you're in, you need to do something to make them notice you, and you're going to be fine. But nobody cares about you. They'll walk right past you unless you interact, unless you give them a reason to notice you. And even if they blow you off, like, make them notice you again. Keep trying. Keep pushing it, and you're going to be fine. And I followed that model. I was so thankful for that manager that I had. Is that it's helped me so much in life to just, who cares? Like, whatever if you fail, but make them notice you in the process, good or bad. Well, hopefully not bad. Don't make them notice you bad way.
The managers like that are a dying breed, bro. It's unfortunate, but like, that's advice the way we were brought up. Like, fucking just go fucking get it. Like, it's not going to be anyone else's call but your call, right? Yeah. Like nothing in life is meant to happen unless you make it happen. Like, But now it's like you almost get fucking okay, like it's almost like you know, appreciation award type of thing where everyone gets the same kind of credit with not everyone putting in the same amount of work. And if you're that type of individual and you're in the reptile world and you're wondering, well, how come I'm not making sales, and your morph market has 0 pictures, you're not even posting, and why do you think you're not making sales? Hello, like what are you putting in to making sure you get the sales first and foremost? And not even morph market cuts it. Like you can't just go to morph market and have professional pictures, dude. Not even those people are making it right now. You know what I mean?
And it's really anything that can give you an edge. I mean, we're jumping all over, but it's all still around this reptile market here. But anything that can give you an edge. One of the people who was in my Patreon for a while is DNA Boas, and Boa DNA, super cool guy, Washington Lopez. He's a professional photographer. He started Patreon, and he was in my Patreon. And I'm like, well, do you want to do photo classes? Because I really need to learn how to take better pictures. And we did, and the amount of care and attention he gave me to bring my photos. I mean, I went out, I bought a $6,000 camera. I didn't need one, but I wanted to make my photos this much better. And I wanted to learn how to use it. And not that my old camera couldn't do it, I could do it faster with this expensive camera. So he actually said, don't buy that camera, it's expensive. And I'm like, no, if it's gonna save me an hour, it's worth it, because that hour is gonna repeat itself every time I take pictures. And I'm happy I bought it. It stepped up my photos quite a bit, or my efficiency with the photos. But I've never stopped learning. I see a gap of where I can perfect, and I still see things where I could do better. I'm working on those. There's, again, a time component, but photos was one thing that I said, it's unacceptable for me to have crap photos when we have such incredible technology for an affordable price. I mean, even your phone is good enough, but then you need to learn how to edit it. And don't over-edit it. You need to learn how to edit it to what the snake looks like, not to what you want it to look like. We're not making pretty Instagram posts. We're selling animals, and you don't want to send this animal out that's like, what the hell is this? Does this look like the thing you sold me? Like, oh, well, I had to edit the photo because I took it on my iPhone and it sucked out the saturation, whatever. Where I'm going is continue educating yourself, continue progressing to give you just that little edge. Sometimes it's just that picture. Sometimes it's that you have an extra review than the other person. It's not always the big things, but a bunch of little things stacked up is what will set you apart from somebody else.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Now I want to get into this topic that is going to be a good entry into the whole market talk that we're going to be closing tonight's episode with. Because mind you, I discovered you on YouTube. But where I originally discovered you from was a video that you did with Nerd back in the day. And I think I mentioned how you did like collaborations at one point, or you were there a lot, but you were a part of Nerd's content for a consistent while at some point, right?
I don't know if I was ever on Nerd's. Nerd was on mine. But because I might have been on 1 or 2 of their videos, but all right, on Facebook I was, because we were going back and forth. I used to go to Kevin's maybe every week, and at the time I lived 45 minutes away. And really, I mean, Kevin and I go back a long ways, but where I really started going up there is Kevin allowed me to do a payment plan on an albino water monitor. I didn't have the money. I mean, I was 20 years old, and he wanted like $7,000 for this thing, and I wanted it. And well, just take it. And that level of trust was just incredible. Just take this animal, and every week I would go up there with whatever I had. Here's $400, here's $500, here's $200. But it was partly, and I would help him clean all the cages. I mean, I'd be in the back of the retic cage breaking my balls, and he would be like, dude, why can't my employees work like you? And I'm like, I don't know, because I want to do this. I mean, literally, I'd be in the back inside the retic cage with a scraper and a steamer, like scraping this stuff off, making sure this thing was spotless. So but it was a make you notice me kind of moment of
right.
Nothing I do rarely. Well, I shouldn't say nothing I do, but I really half-ass things I do. I try to give it everything I can. And that was just a moment that I did, and I got noticed. And I think that goes with keeping the reptiles and taking advice and constructive criticism from others, like the guy Tom who's filming the videos now. I mean, the attention to detail he has is ridiculous. Like, dude, your tablecloth is wrinkled. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm going to bring a steamer to your next show because it's bothering me and it's in our videos now. So like, oh, you know what? Good idea. My tablecloth is wrinkled. If you notice it, 2 other people may notice it. And they might be thinking, well, sloppy. Like, whatever can make you stand out with what you have is what you do. So I digressed a little bit. But yes, I think I was in some of Nerd's water monitor videos years ago before Facebook or before YouTube. He didn't have a YouTube. Well, he had a YouTube, but it was small. It was maybe 20 or 30,000 subs. And I didn't have a YouTube. But we were doing a lot of water monitor content. Just, I was amazed by those. I still am. If I had the space and the time, I would have water monitors again. They're just awesome animals. I don't think it's fair for me to have water monitors. I travel too much, and I can't give them the care and the attention that they need. But they're incredible animals. So I digress way off your topic, so I apologize.
You're good. You're good. I mean, it's fine because I'm trying to get to a point here with, that was damn near over 7 years ago when I saw you a part of that content and whatnot. And since the last 7 years, like, where Nerd's at, man, like, what do you think's happened? Like, what's going on with Nerd? Like, what do you, like, if you were to sit back and think where Nerd's at right now, like, what would be your first thought?
In terms of YouTube or business or
Just
both?
like a brand, business, the facility, just overall everything. Kevin going on live saying that ball pythons ran its course, it's over with that market, like, just like everything, bro. Like, I'm just,
yeah. So I think the scale of Nerd is very challenging. And, you know, years ago I went to Kevin. I said, Kevin, I want to start a pet store. And he's like, don't do it. Just don't do it. I said, yeah, but I'm really passionate about it. I want to do it. And he's like, the overhead of the pet store will kill you. Then I actually tried to work for Kevin. He said, well, what's a lot of money to you? How much money do you want to make? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And I was like, well, can I do this breeding? You know, how much money? Because at the time, again, I was still trying to get going, and Kevin was my mentor. I think hooking up with a mentor is so important. Just find somebody that you can resonate with and try to get with them, whether it's through Patreon or just someone's willing to help you out, you know, cleaning snakes for them, whatever. So important to get with a mentor, but Kevin helped me out so much, and he's a really good friend, and I don't see him enough. I do want to go up there and see him this summer because it's been literally probably 3 years since I've been to Nerd. I've seen him at some shows, but I give him uncomfortable hugs every time I see him. But where I was going is that it's so important to get that mentor. And I lost what the hell were we talking about, MJ?
it's basically like, you know, here's the thing. Yeah, just with the brand's not the same anymore. Like, when it comes to when I first came across it, and I noticed changes happening throughout the years, but just Nerds is not the same anymore. You know what I mean?
I think his YouTube channel somewhat changed that, and it's this is not a knock to Donnie or anybody.
Donnie's gone. You know, Donnie's been gone, right? He's not. I
know Donnie's gone, and I think what Donnie did was grow a YouTube channel, right. And I talk about this a lot with Tom, who's doing the filming, is that one thing we don't want to do is, and I'm going to steal his words. This is not mine. And we're on the same page, Tom and I, but, your name is the umbrella, and, Jason Exotic Reptiles is the peak of the umbrella, and right. Everything falls below that. And everything needs to funnel up to that Jason's Exotic Reptiles. And I think what happened with Nerd is Nerd and Kevin McCurley were the top of the umbrella. But what happened was YouTube flipped that, and it didn't necessarily respect the Nerd brand.
Yeah,
it grew a YouTube channel, and if the goal was to grow a YouTube channel at all costs, then that's fine. But I do think the YouTube, in some extent, kind of could have hurt the brand of Nerd a little bit. That's one component. But at the same time, I think Kevin has an amazing place, like 14,000 plus square feet. 7 acres, animals all over the place. The overhead for something like that is unreal. Yeah. His electric bill for the month is probably 5 times mine for the year. So the amount of money you have to bring in to keep that type of business flowing is incredible. And I think that's really what happened. Is I would have loved to see Kevin have a channel like mine with 800 or 1 million subs. So again, I think that would have helped him, because the people who watch my channel are people who are in the hobby to learn. And I think a large majority of the people who watch Kevin's channel are there for entertainment and somewhat into the hobby to learn. So it's not, it's mixed, but I think a lot of the growth came from those wow factor, shock factor videos. So the channel grew, but it didn't necessarily help the sales. Now that the economy is terrible, well, I won't even say the economy is terrible because I don't want to get into an argument on the screen, but everything costs a lot more now. My electric bill is ridiculous. I go back, my electric bill is $2,000 a month. It's $2,000 a month. My feeder bills have gone up. The bedding is more expensive. The caging is more expensive. Everything is more expensive, but we're still trying to depreciate and chip away at the reptiles. So to that extent, to have a facility like Kevin with ball pythons, and Kevin has a lot of cool stuff, not just ball pythons, but his business was built on ball pythons. Kevin rode the ramp all the way up through the humps and all the pieces of the roller coaster, and now it's on its downward swing to the end where people get off the ride. And I think it will never go on this upward trajectory again. I don't think ball pythons are going to disappear, but the days of ball pythons exploding, I mean, they have all the morphs. What made ball pythons exciting was, wow, what is this going to look like? And I think there's only so many genes you can stuff into an animal before you start looking at it saying, yeah, that's cool, but it looked kind of like that. And I'm actually not sure what's in this one because it has 8 different genes, and I don't know what's doing that. So I think it's gone past we can keep stacking genes until you get this crazy visual appearance. Boas, I think, are almost there. They're not there. They still have a long run. But once you start getting into the realm of 5, 6, 7 gene animals, you lose that wow factor. And I think that the roller coaster is somewhat on its way down, and you're left with a massive amount of overhead at some place like Nerd. Nerd's not going out of business. I mean, Kevin has, as much as I don't want to say shit on the YouTube channel, that YouTube helps him quite a bit too. And Nerd is the brand. I mean, they have this reputation of Nerd and Kevin McCurley. I think Kevin's newer videos are bringing him, not all of them, but some of them are bringing them more back to, this is Kevin McCurley and this is why you should buy from Nerd, as opposed to this is the Nerd YouTube channel. So I don't know if that makes sense. If people can disagree, agree, it's fine. Doesn't hurt my feelings.
Well, I mean, we'll definitely touch on everything you just said right now. Obviously, I feel like because Donnie left, there's a big change with Nerd's content, and Donnie knew how to do content as far as how to get the viewership and all that. That's what changed Nerd for what it was, and that's kind of why I'm like, damn, that was my first thing where whatever. I will never take anything away from what Kevin's done with Nerd and who Kevin McCurley is. Legendary stuff. You can't take that away from him, right? But we're just talking about what's happening today. It is kind of sad, because I don't see that educational stuff that I used to see from Kevin on his vlogs, and maybe that is changing now, but YouTube, he has taken a huge hit. So I know that there are money things that he had at one point, just like with ball pythons. I mean, I heard stories about how much money he was selling ball pythons at one point in his fucking life. You know what I mean? But I feel like, yeah, right. You saw it, but yeah, I felt like,
I'm like, dude, you just sold how much money in ball pythons? I mean, really
crazy money,
like $125,000, like boom, out the door.
Right, and to be at that level at some point to where now you're completely checked out on the opposite end, you can't really speak on where the future of ball pythons are headed because you're not even in the game. And respectfully, ball pythons aren't your strong suit, right? Are you heavily in the ball python game?
I don't have any anymore. I used to, and they just weren't my deal. But right. I know a lot of people who have them.
So you're definitely speaking from the outsider, you really don't know yourself either, because holy shit, with the triple recessive, like the stuff that was never even a thought of years ago, kind of gave a whole rebirth for the ball python market. And that's why it's crazy to hear how people think, well, man, it will never peak again. Well, how do you know that? Because we're starting over. We're basically starting everything that was once jammed into each other, but now they're being jammed into triple and quad recessives, which actually completely changed how these things mature. Like, we're talking adults that don't look like shit anymore. Like, we're used to ball pythons only looking good at a baby's point, and once they get to 2-3 years old, it's all washed out. Like, what the fuck am I looking at? Those days are gone, Jason. Yeah. And I'm only telling that because I am in the ball python game. I am friends with some of the most successful ball python keepers that are in the game relevant, and I'm very excited to still be in the ball python game, but only here to let you know that like there is a whole nother chapter that this world hasn't seen yet with the ball pythons, which is very exciting for me, right? But
Yeah.
it's going back to just where like, you know, I just felt like Kevin's voice is still very powerful. It's still very strong. And I just feel like for him to talk on something that he hasn't really cared about for so many years, it just kind of was like almost it was like a scare. Like, are you trying to fucking freak people out? Like, why would you want to say something like that when you're really not even involved in ball pythons anymore? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, Kevin has ball pythons. Kevin probably has more ball pythons than the majority of people in the ball python game. I think that the days of those super expensive, you know, ball pythons were built on this. I don't want to say this, but
You can.
They were built on a get rich quick kind of sales model
In a sense,
to a lot of people, and that's how those expensive animals were sold to a lot of people. And then COVID happened, and people had money. They were at home. They were getting into this thing like crazy, and sales went boom. And that's natural. I mean, that happened across the board for every product because you couldn't go to vacations. And we cover this in you know, a couple of videos, and we're going to cover it in some future ones as well on my YouTube channel. But the sales they exploded across everything. But ball pythons, there's so many people in the ball python game that it's just like going back to what we said, is to be able to stand out from the crowd is exponentially harder.
Way harder. It is.
And so I would never, and that kind of goes to like that the video I made is the Reptile Market Doomed video, is that it could be. It depends on you. It depends on the person, the type of marketing and the branding you're doing. Are you able to set yourself apart from the 500 other breeders out there that have the exact same thing as you? Maybe not 500, but and using someone like Justin is a bad example because Justin spent a lot of money. He is that perfect example of, you want to make a splash, come in with a ton of money. Who's the other guy? Who's the other big guy in it? Bob Boo, maybe? Is that the right name?
Yeah, Bob Boo's definitely one of the top hitters. Yeah, in the ball python game, Bob Boo. Yeah.
I mean, he spent a ton of money. I mean, that dude came from a lot of money. Miguel came from a huge amount of money and spent a lot of money, but they have great marketing. All of them have great marketing. So you start tying together the things that these successful people in the ball python game did and have. They all spent a lot of money. They all came with a lot of money to it, and they're all successful because they have a really good kind of a public branding name to themselves. But they, you know, maybe not Justin so much, but I know a lot of them still sell things and I've heard Miguel say it in videos, they sell things. You can buy this $20,000 animal and you breed it to this $1,000 animal, you're going to have $2 million worth of babies. You will, but who are you going to sell them to if you have no name? Who are you going to? Yeah. That's the part that people forget, is who are you going to sell these babies to? Yeah. There is a customer out there, but how do you get in front of that customer? If you can figure that out, you're going to be super successful in anything you do, not just reptiles. If in anything you're selling, all right, I have this that's worth buying. How do I get in front of the customer that is looking to buy it when I have these 5 other people who have the same thing and they have a name that's way bigger than mine? So it's not a discouraging thing. It's just to get people thinking of, you got to set yourself apart. You got to have those better pictures. You don't need to buy the expensive camera, but you need to know how to use the cheap one and how to modify the photos. And that's something that I'm still working with myself. You have to figure out a way how to set yourself aside. And if you can do that, you're going to have a very successful reptile market. Doesn't matter what you breed. Ball python, boas, colubrids, corn snake, I don't care. You're going to have a good market if you can find the customer. But you need to find the customer between everybody else who's also looking for that same customer.
Like, think about it. That was like the thing people did when prices go down. Like, who would be doing anything? Like, why would there ever be anyone who has excelled in any market if they didn't stick it out? And the thing is, like, if we were talking about Miguel's and Justin, well, they work with each other. That's the smartest thing is, you know, obviously Miguel knew how to fucking, you know, Miguel's a people person first and foremost. Yeah. He's really good at connecting business relationships, right? But he did them smart, and he did them with the right people, the ones who were doing the best in the game. That's who he put himself around with. And, you know, that takes a lot of work, takes a lot of investment, takes a lot of fucking patience. You know what I mean? But but it's not something to where it's as easy as you come in, you buy it, and you're going to be making multiple versions of it and you're become a millionaire. No, dude, like who to who? Like there's not like, you know, it's not like you get gold and you go to a bank and you turn in the gold. It doesn't work like that. You got to have people who are out there willing, no matter what's happening in the economy, are they willing to give you money? You know what I mean? And now that we're in a place where it's not COVID days, so many people are a lot smart, and it should be this way. They're a lot smarter on where they're giving their money and who they're giving their money to. But guess what? They're still spending money. Oh, they are. I'm telling you right now, I'm not here to gloat or anything, but I have not had any complaints with my sales this year with snakes.
Yeah.
They're fucking great. So,
well, I'm in that same boat. So what is something that you and I are doing that is not being done by the people who are complaining? And if you can find the answer to that question, I know what we're doing. I mean, branding, marketing, getting out there, doing something that is different, giving information for free. I mean, investing our own time for no cause other than I want to help you, and people see that and they resonate with it and they become a customer. So yes, although there is a secondary benefit from some of the stuff we're doing, the primary reason needs to come from I want to help you. And then people will relate to that. If the primary reason is I want to sell things to you and that's why I'm doing these things, people will also recognize that too. So there's you just have to do that branding and marketing. That's in anything you do. You open up right now, you have Main Street in wherever you live, and there's 15 coffee shops. Why does one of them do better? Why does Starbucks do better than Joe's Coffee? Or why has Joe's Coffee got a dedicated following? What are they all doing? And you can have 10 coffee. My town just opened another damn coffee shop. We've got like literally 10 coffee shops here. But there's a dedicated following to each one. But you know what? Starbucks just opened. People still go to it. Why? Because they have that branding, they have that marketing, they put in years of effort that if a Starbucks opens, they know that they're going to get a sales flow. And they do a lot of research to where they open and what they open with. So just very relatable to getting into reptiles is if you do your research, try to figure out what you want to do, what you want to brand yourself as, who you want to sell to, then you're going to do fine. Starbucks is not for everybody. Someone's going to Joe's Coffee or Dunkin' Donuts.
Here we go. This is a good example here. What we're talking about. We know there's a Starbucks on almost every goddamn corner nowadays. There's a fucking million Starbucks. But guess what? I will purposely drive about 1.5 miles further for this Starbucks because I don't like this one right over here. And I think people should realize that. Like, listen, even though you have cool shit out there, if you are not that people person, if you're not there to help or be there for that person, they don't need to fucking spend money with you. Why? And there's people listening to podcasts like these and getting information where they know that they can vote with their dollar. It's that simple. You know what I mean? And they don't need to spend that money with you because you're not the only fucking guy out there who has it now. You know what I mean? So
I think what you just said is like just spot on. Is why do you drive past this Starbucks or this whatever and go to the next one? Because this one sucks. Because you wait in line for an hour. Because you're trying to buy this animal from somebody and they haven't gotten back to you in a day. So you go to the next person. Response time. I mean, it's your customer service and this is your business as a reptile breeder, if that's what these people are. And if you're not on point and you're not on top of your game, they're going to go to the other one. There's too many options. So what sets you apart from the other person? That's everything. And if you can do that and you put in the effort, you can be very successful. And it doesn't matter what you breed. As you just said, ball pythons are still selling. Justin's not hurting right now. Maybe his sales have declined a little bit, but I mean, he's probably still very profitable. And I think Kevin is still profitable. I think Kevin's sales have probably just plateaued as they always have. The problem is the bills haven't. The bills have continued to go up.
Right.
So I'm not speaking for Kevin. I don't know what his situation is, but I know he's still I mean, he still makes money, but I also know that his overhead has gone significantly more. Just the cost of labor. I mean, it'd be great to think you could pay everybody X amount of dollars per hour, but when I pay you more, I need to make more. And if I'm not making more, I can't pay you. And that means either I need to get rid of somebody or you need to deal with the lower pay. I mean, that's the fact. Or you need to help me sell stuff. It's just a combination of things. And I think that Kevin is probably just a little bit, bummed by the bills. And
I mean, I've heard about this overhead thing from him, not from him, but about what he's had to pay and deal with for years. Like that fucking facility, that building costs so much money. And I remember hearing this pre-COVID, how much money that guy's spending on electricity and like, you know, everything that you could imagine that comes with keeping a building full of reptiles. Dude, it's no joke. And here we are where, you know, the biggest thing that made me like kind of heartfelt for Kevin is when I saw where the retic world was. I saw where all the retics were heading. That whole market, you want to talk about the only thing that has crashed. Holy shit. That was the one thing where I was like, dude, but dude, he went all in on that. Like that was his bread and butter, were the huge snakes. And now people can't even give away a huge snake. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm like. It's like, man, you got to make wise choices. And maybe he just didn't see that coming. And which is, I want to ask you too, like, did you see any of this stuff coming at all, Jason? Like stuff with the bigger snakes and boas, you chose boas. And I also want to ask you why you chose boas to be the bread and butter out of all of them. But even with, for now, the bigger snakes being looked at the way they are, did you see this coming at all?
Yeah. I mean, I still have berms and I like berms. At the same time, I don't chase the expensive stuff because the berms I make are for the people who want pets.
Right.
You know, I do have some cool stuff, and I bought a couple cool. I bought some albino pieds this year, but I waited to a price point but I bought them for me. Like I really don't care if they sell. The berms I produce are normals, albinos, hypos, ivories, pearls, stuff that most of these breeders would be like, oh, you're just producing these low dollar animals. You must not know what you're doing. Like, no, dude, I've been doing this for probably longer than half these people have been alive who are complaining about it. And it's not about what you produce that makes you a breeder. It's about, do you know what you're doing? In my opinion, that makes you a breeder. I could go, if you gave me 30, 40 grand, I can go buy some expensive berms and breed expensive berms. I can go buy expensive anything and breed it. It's just a matter of, can I do it repeatedly? Would you rather give me your 30 grand versus some guy who's never bred or who's been in the hobby for a year if you had to give it to somebody? So it's not to knock those people, not that those people don't know what they're doing, but I saw this coming with the market because I was in it, I was living it. I lived through the 2008 ball python deal. I had ball pythons at that time. I had a lot of ball pythons. I maybe had at one point 200-300 ball pythons. And it wasn't my thing. I was doing it chasing the money. So that's my perspective on ball pythons. And that was my perspective on where the market is now. COVID super inflated the market. Not COVID, but the money that people were getting and the situation with people at home.
Right.
It super inflated the market. And I'm literally watching a repeat of what happened. My only prediction of why I said ball pythons will never have that explosion again is because there's so much more made. And I know, you know, I speak to a lot of ball python breeders, and a lot of them don't have excellent marketing. Some of them have fine marketing, but I think that they're struggling. And what's helping keep them moving right now is they have other stuff. They diversified in the process of ball pythons, but they just were never my thing. I saw large snakes. I had large snakes. I used to have retics, and man, it's a lot of work to have a retic. And I said, imagine breeding these things, as cool as this is.
Yeah.
Huge animals, huge cages, they're active snakes. And literally, we talk about this in the video tomorrow, but I really don't think retics can be sustainably kept in captivity unless you have a lot of room.
Unless you got a fucking warehouse, you're Bob Clark, and you could just fucking get, I mean, even that, like dude, like Jason, I had 13 mainlands at one point.
Yeah.
And it didn't hit me until I tried breeding. And when I saw what they did when you bred and the fucking males, your little fucking cute male that you could take out became a monster because it smells fucking pheromones or whatever, putting holes in himself. I had a retic biting himself. I was like, what are you doing? And it was fucked up. It changed everything. And I'm like, yeah, this is not, I knew right then and there, these little fucking, not little, but whatever I was trying to do with these mainlands, I just thought, okay, if I can't handle it, what is the average person out there going to do with this? Like, this is insane. You know what I mean? So it was a rude awakening.
I love retics. I like ball pythons.
I love them too.
I enjoy, every once in a while I'll say, man, maybe I should get another ball python. I'd probably just buy an albino. But then I remember all the trouble I had. I think the ball pythons where they somewhat struggled was they were over recommended. I don't think ball pythons are an excellent beginner species. Maybe you would disagree, but ball pythons are notorious for having feeding issues. And if you're a new keeper and you have a bad experience with a ball python that doesn't want to eat, and I know there's people out there that say all my snakes eat all the time, I've never had an issue feeding a ball python. I don't know. What are you feeding it? Live? Try feeding a ball python consistently rats, frozen thawed rats. At some point, this thing's not going to eat that thing. I guarantee it. If you have enough of them, you'd be keeping it long enough, you have dealt with the ball python hunger strike. And it is extremely frustrating.
Yeah, yeah, especially when the numbers, like if you're dealing with a lot, like you do have ball pythons that just get funny and they need a live. They just, like, whatever you do, it's not going to take a frozen thaw. You need to give it a live. But that's why you got to be in that position where if you have live, you could give them a live. Like that's, a lot of these things you got to look at when going into it. Like you can't just rely on frozen thawed in the freezer and you have a lot of numbers against you. Now, mind you, I will say I haven't had any, like I haven't sold hundreds of snakes, but I've sold like enough to where I would get some sort of like something back from a customer where it won't eat. Cause I got to say, everything that I sell off, man, it either eats frozen thawed or live. They're fucking monsters. And I think that's because their captivity has been done a lot more of ball pythons. And I think back years ago, ball pythons were mainly coming imported and they were like funny eaters. But also, I will say though, all it takes is one switch in a husbandry, like something weird to happen in your ball python rack, and everything that ate frozen thawed once now doesn't want to eat frozen thawed. That I've seen that happen. I've had snakes just all of a sudden now they don't want to eat what they would normally eat for whatever fucking reason. And I think that just comes with having numbers of things. And so, but yeah, it's like, what are you going to do? Okay, you have 10 ball pythons that have been eating frozen thawed for 2 years. You had a crazy winter, something got too cold, and now they don't want to eat frozen thawed. Well, now what? Yeah.
Well, and that's why I think they're a little over recommended as beginner pets.
I could see that. Have you ever Adam Wickens is Wickens Reptiles? Shout out to Adam. Adam first put out a video a couple years back saying how ball pythons isn't a good first pet. And then at first I was like, oh, who the fuck's this hater? And I couldn't believe it. But really, like, there are a lot of things that could go wrong that could make this ball python not enjoyable to keep because it doesn't fucking eat or it doesn't like whatever. So in a sense, as far as easiest, yeah, maybe you're right. It's not the easiest for sure.
And I think that's why typically somebody comes up to me and says, what's the best snake for me? I've never had a snake before. I'll ask them, well, how big do you want the snake to be realistically? And what's your desire to spend time with this thing? And normally it's a corn snake or a boa. And I skip ball pythons. I actually think ball pythons are a slightly more advanced species than like a boa or a colubrid. Not advanced mentally, but like advanced keeping. Right. Is, as you just mentioned, conditions really need to be very consistent. Where these things come from, I mean, they don't spend a lot of time out. There's not a lot of stressors. And if they're not really consistent, you have that kind of, like you said, all right, I got a colder winter this year. Nothing wants to eat frozen anymore. Now it's all wants live, or it wants African soft furs, or it wants mice. Right. That frustration alone, I think, is somewhat very challenging. As ball python, I was at somebody's house, the guy who actually breeds some of the mice I have, and I was able to go down and he showed me, and I'm thinking, man, you have 40 snakes in the same space that I need 6 to 8 boas. And I think that's the challenge with the ball python market is the scalability is just so easy to scale. Is for me to have 8 boas, and these are 4 foot by 30 inch by freedom breeder racks. For me to have 8 boas, he had 40 animals in that same space, and I'm thinking, and you only need 1 male to every 5 to 10 females, or whatever. That's arguable, but let's say 1 male to every 5 females. Well, I need 1 male to every 1 female boa. So I have 4 breeding pairs, and you can make like 30 clutches of eggs, and I can make 4. So the rate of growth with ball pythons and the model of trying to produce the next best thing is it's so challenging if you don't have that bankroll, because you will never produce the next. I shouldn't say never, but the chase to produce the next best thing. The reason why people get in is typically financially. It's not so much because they're super passionate about ball pythons. They may like them. They might like reptiles and they pick ball pythons. But then they hit the challenges of feeding. They hit the challenges of I have 30 clutches of eggs. I've scaled. I need to feed these things. I need to house these things. I have bills for all this, and all of that is a domino effect that makes it a very discouraging situation for a lot of people. And I think now you're seeing this mass exodus of the 2019 to 2021 influx of keepers that didn't put in the effort to market. They grew way too fast beyond their means of selling. And now they're sitting on all these babies and they don't know what to do and they're freaking out and the sky is falling. People who make it past this hump will be okay. But the model of ball pythons was always, not always, but for the most part, get rich quick. How many genes can I stack into this? What can I make next? What is the best combo I can make? How can I get this animal with this animal and pair all these genes together? And once that's done, it's discouraging if that was your project. And then you see the prices falling, and it's like this spiral of discouragement.
But you can't spiral with the market. Like the thing is, like, once you see the decline in pricing, your attitude and your fucking energy can't decline too. Like, you have to believe in what you have, and you just have to keep pushing forward. A lot easier said than done when you need money, right?
Yeah, and if you weren't truly passionate about that, so for me, I really don't care if the boa market kind of starts to spiral down, because I like boas. Like, I would literally always have boas. If I have to give these things away, granted, I won't be at the scale that I'm at, but I will still be breeding and I will be giving boas away. I don't care because I like them that much. And a lot of people got into ball pythons with huge investments and they didn't have that passion for the animal. They just had passion for reptiles, but not necessarily ball pythons. And now they're switching to boas. So the amount of customers I have is, oh, ball pythons suck, I want a boa. Well, ball pythons don't suck. You just had a bad experience with it. Not knocking you for not liking them, but it's just this get into what you like. If you like ball pythons, then breed it. If you like boas, breed it. If you like retics, breed it. But you need to predict with reason. Like, don't breed 5,000 retics. You're not going to be able to sell them. Get a couple. Breed what you like. Make a business on what makes sense, and keep your customer service on point, and you're going to be fine. If I produce the amount of boas I produce now 10 years ago, I would be screwed. I scaled with time. I still breed things that I want to hold back. Like, every pairing I make every year is something that I wanted to make, something that I want babies from this pairing, so I can hold back and make something else. And I know that the rest of the litters will sell. Like, I don't care if they don't. I'll keep them all. I want everything in it. But I'm doing it for me, and then people want to buy in on that. If they like what I'm producing, go for it. I'm not doing it to breed kind of because I like it, but because I need the financial reward for it. So I've rambled there a little bit, but hopefully it's making some sense.
No, I mean, what you're stating is, like, anything that you've grown into has been the bread and butter, what you love. Like, it's kind of like, I mean, yeah, nobody wants anything to crash or go down, but it's going to happen, and it shouldn't affect what you do or why you do it. And I think that's why it's important for people to realize, no matter how things good or bad are, like, do it because you want to do it. Like, no matter what the financial outcome is or whatever the situation is, you should walk in that room happy and proud that you have that stuff. You know what I mean? And like you said, you still breed shit that you want to breed and do because it's what you want. It's like, it's kind of what keeps Jason fucking flaming. You know what I mean? Like, you know, as a grown man, what fucking keeps you motivated. You know what I mean? And I think when you have a reptile collection, you have to stay motivated in that room. It should fire you up. And if you're not fired up, you should dig deep on what it is that's not keeping you excited to be around such amazing animals, you know?
Dude, I came down here one day and I'm like, who let me do this? Like, like, holy shit. Like, I was going into cages like, oh my God, who let me do this?
Wow.
I called my wife. I'm like, why did you let me do this? This is crazy. Thank you. Like, who let me do this? And that was the reaction I got. And it was just awesome to kind of think in that way of, like, look at all of this cool stuff and the way that it kind of scaled, and I've been very fortunate that it played out like this, but it scaled organically. Nothing was ever forced. I didn't jump into a bunch of breeding animals. I learned how to breed. I mean, there were times I've always had a good amount of reptiles, but it was always scaling sustainably. And I always encourage people to have those purge, those pressure relief valves, like hook up with your local pet store. Will your pet store buy these litters from you? They may not be buying what you want, but like giving you the price you want. But will they buy it? Is that a pressure relief valve? That can get rid of a whole clutch of eggs or a whole litter of boas that doesn't hurt the market. And I think that's the challenge right now is people are just trying to get out. They got in during COVID. That's something that's different than 2008 is in 2005 to 2008 because the market was booming back then. I mean, that's when I was breeding. I think I was saying I spent $2,000 on a pastel and I think $6,000 on a Mojave. Like what yellow bellies were selling for 10 grand. I wanted to buy a yellow belly, but I couldn't afford it. I was like 13 years old. But
what a time.
Yeah. Well, the market was cranking. People were buying things, but it's different than what happened in 2008 because we now have the internet. A massive amount of animals were getting purchased and bred. And I think in total, that's the challenge with the ball python market right now that the ball pythons are facing is there are still people that want them, but the supply is so much larger than the demand. And people thought they could get these animals, breed them, hatch them, sell them. I always tell people, like, it might take me a year or two to sell certain animals. And I don't think people were prepared to carry an animal for 2 years. I just sold the last of my 2022 animals. Like, I had two or three of them left. They just sold. That was 2022. This is me. They were nice animals. I still have, I think, 23 animals left. And I maybe have a couple hundred 2024s and more coming. I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, I made a lot of animals this year. I got 80 berm eggs or 60 something berm eggs in the incubator. And I got, 40 colubrid eggs and more coming. And I'm on a rack. I bought more racks. I'm like, oh man, I need to, what stuff is selling? In the past month, I probably sold 30 or 40 animals. So it's the market's not dead. It's a good thing because by the time the eggs hatch, I'll probably have more rack space. And then by the time I get to the end of next season, I'm going to be like, oh my God, I hope I produce stuff this year because I have nothing left to sell. So it's just what happens.
So I think this 2-hour episode clearly stated that it's not the market fully crashing. It is there's certain keepers within the market who are deciding it's not enough or it's not doing it for them. Right. And so for anyone out there who maybe you've mentored or a Patreon member or a follower, or whoever, if someone's out there wondering, well, Jason, how do I not become a reptile crasher, or breeder crasher? Like, how do I avoid being one of those people that are going to crash out and sell my collection? What would you tell them?
Just wait. Increase your branding, your marketing, really do a self-reflection of what makes you unique and just be patient. And you just have to be patient. Things don't sell overnight and don't follow the trend of price dropping. It's so tempting to do it, but imagine what would happen if there was $1,000 animal and I dropped it to $500. What are you going to do? You're going to drop it to $350. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to drop it to $200 because I can, as I can still make money if I sell it for $200. But that permanently hurts the market forever. And that is why there's such a challenge is there's so many people dropping their price. It will go up eventually again once those people get out. But just if you like it, be passionate, be patient, increase your branding, marketing, find something that sets you apart, and you're going to be fine.
But definitely like it, right? That should be first and foremost. You should be liking what you're doing, right?
Yeah. If you are not thoroughly passionate about what you are doing, not just reptiles, but the reptiles you have, then it's probably time for you to actually just exit and get out.
Yeah, save the room for people who want to keep these reptiles. You know what I mean? But man, 2 hours. What an amazing episode. All right. I knew this round 2 would be great, but it was, surpassed my expectations, man. This was great. For people to be on top of everything that you have going on, will Instagram be the best place to follow you right now, Jason?
Yeah, I'd say Instagram or YouTube. We're cranking out the YouTube videos. One video every week. We're dropping it Fridays right now. The day may change, but right now Fridays at 3 p.m. New video dropping tomorrow. Expo vlog. We touch on reptile market, customer questions, retics. We talk about all that stuff. We show Dana from Reaper Reptiles. We show Nick from Revived Reptiles.
Nice.
Nick, really cool stuff. So make sure you check out tomorrow's video too.
All right, I'm gonna share this photo because it's kind of heartfelt. You know, I miss my man Brian, but I bet that was a time getting to hang out with these two in person, huh?
Yeah, that was that photo hits a little different, but that was a good day. We were playing with Kevin's leucistic cobra. Brian came in and Kevin called me, says, "Hey, Brian's coming down. You got to come up." I said, "All right, I'll be done." I actually bought some of my first ball pythons from Brian.
Jeez.
Hides and stuff like that. When I gave Brian maybe $10,000 at the New York White Plains Expo, walked away with a handful of ball pythons. And I still have a corn snake from him. Traded him a Burmese python for a corn snake.
And like, I'm sure, Jason, you'll probably never forget times like that, right? Like, this is like the kind of, like, yeah, the animals are one thing, but man, the people, bro, the people we get to meet and interact with and just build these memories with, we'll take with us forever. You know what I mean? And that's why I showed that picture, because I know you probably remember that day like it was yesterday. You know what I mean? And like that right there, I mean, the hairs stand up on my arms thinking about it, but the people that I've got to meet that, you know, like Barchek, and I met Kevin before too, and I'll never forget meeting people like that ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, Brian was a unique person, definitely a loss to the reptile community and really the world. I hate to be cliche like that, but he did a lot of really good stuff for reptiles and for education of our hobby. So not to end on a sad note, but yeah, Brian was he was definitely a unique person.
No, man. Yeah, but the whole thing, everything we're involved in is unique, you would say, right? This entire reptile world, like, you know, I think you appreciate the life that you have in the reptile world just as much as I do, because you know how unique and a beautiful place it is, bro. Like, I love it.
I was thinking about that day is I sat right in the middle of those two, and Brian looks at me and goes, "You're gonna sit in the middle of us?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." So it was a fun day. He was a good dude.
You go to Daytona or any big shows? Like, what's your agenda as far as going to any reptile shows that are like the biggest ones in the country or whatnot?
I don't really do a lot of shows. I may start to attend a few. I may start to. I've never been to Tinley, never been to Daytona. I've never been to any of the big shows.
Dude, you need to get out there for sure, Jason.
I think I may, especially we may do some videos and stuff like that. I'm really trying to focus on that branding and the YouTube. And I mean, it's even doing shows. I haven't vended shows in probably 2 to 3 years. And now I'm vending. So that tells you that somebody like myself who's had consistent sales, had $45,000+ months, I'm doing shows again, not because I want to sell, but because it's branding and marketing is so much more important today than it was 2-3 years ago. You have to do it. Their competition is real. And if you're not getting out there, you're not going to do well. So kind of looping it back to our topics, but yeah, I am going to try to do a couple. What's one I should do? Probably Tinley, right?
I would say Tinley. Like, you've definitely, like, you know, the best place to kind of, you know, get your hands on both people on the side of the country. A lot of people go to Tinley, but a reptile super show would be something I would consider also here in Cali. Daytona, of course. I mean, any RBC or reptile super show, bro. I mean, you would actually feel the appreciation for people who fuck with your content, because they go and they'll see you, they'll walk right up to you, and it's awesome. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, that's the funnest part about shows, is actually meeting the people who've been watching you. You get to shake their hand, interact with them, and it's awesome. But I almost did Animal Con this year, but it's right when my second kid's going to be born, so no Animal Con for me this year.
Yeah, I'm so mad that this is my second year missing it. I won't miss it next year for sure. I promise Lori. But yeah, because of scheduling, and I have a knee surgery coming up, like, I won't be able to make it to Animal Con. But who knows? Maybe next year I could meet you at Animal Con if I don't see you at an NARBC.
Maybe we'll try to tie together before that. But yeah, either Animal Con is a definite. I'm doing next year. I'm committing to it. I'm verbally committing right now to you.
All right.
And it sounds like you just did the same. So I'll see you.
Yeah. There you go. And like I said, we'll be linking up before then anyways. But guys, for now, please do me a favor. Subscribe to this man's YouTube channel, please, first and foremost. All right, Jason, Exotic Reptiles. And then, of course, on Instagram. I'll put those links in the description below. But it's a wrap. Give it up for my man, Jason, in his round 2. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody, for checking out and watching. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, thank you for everything. Keep grinding. And I'm looking forward to the next one, bro. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Peace out, Jason. Woo, great episode, guys. I appreciate everyone who tapped in. This 2 hours just flew by. It was a really great podcast. So if you enjoyed tonight's episode, your first time hanging out, smash that like button. Let's get the likes up for Jason right now, especially for his grind, his passion behind the reptiles and the content he puts out for all the people, man. Great guy. Definitely a great guy. And again, you can catch the links to his YouTube and his IG in the description below. You can also see the very first link in the description below to join the Trap Talk Patreon family. So click on that first link, join the Trap Talk Patreon family, get connected to the Discord, get connected to the IG group chat. Just come meet me and all the trappers, man. But guys, thank you so much. Make sure you tune in for Friday's podcast with the one and only Dave Levison. Holy shit, Dave Levison finally has his own podcast under the Trap Talk Reptile Network. He's bringing on Ron St. Pierre and Ron's better half, Heather from Fairy Tale Exotics, going down here on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. So, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate all the love and support. Episode 517 in the books. I'm out.